without further ado, Rob Reiner. I think the rest of
the Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Lee. That's very nice for you to have me. Before I want to ask you a lot, you're going to ask me questions, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what I've done and why why we've come to this position on Measure R and why we feel it's so important here for our future in Malibu. As was pointed out, I've been involved in politics and issues for a long, long time. And all of the things that I've done over the years, the things that I've done because I felt that they should be done. When we fought the tobacco industry to get funding for early childhood, that was back in 1998, and we passed Proposition 10 here in California. It wasn't because I directly benefit from it. I thought that that was an important way to help the community and give children the right start in life, so that it would ultimately give them a better chance to succeed later on. And then I was appointed by Governor Davis to run the State Commission on Early Childhood, which was the first 5 commission. And I did that for 7 years. I chaired that commission and implemented the initiative, which at the time was about $700 to $750 million a year it generated for young children. Now, because of people reducing smoking, and that was one of our mandates as well, to get people to stop smoking. It's now probably around $500 million a year, but it's still generating money, and it's still money still going into programs for young kids. We did that, and then, as was pointed out, it came to my attention that they wanted to build a city in the Santa Monica Mountains, and I thought, ooh, that's this. I looked at. It's not, I don't live there. I don't live in that Amundsen Ranch area, but I do drive along 101, and I thought, this is like the worst gridlock now. And so they're going to add 45,000 car trips a day to that. It just didn't make sense. And then also the environmental impacts on the air quality and so on. So we took on that fight, and we fought Washington Mutual, who owned that land. And we were able to win, and we passed a water bond, which allowed us to have that space bought for the preservation as open space forever. Then, during the 2008 election, if you remember, it was a historic election, obviously. We had the first African-American president win, and that was exciting. But for people who were friends of mine, and particularly one fellow named Chad Griffin, who is now the head of the Human Rights Campaign. I've known him since he was 19 years old. He worked for D.D. Myers in the Clinton White House, and he was responsible for showing me around, and when I was doing American President, and showing me all the different parts of the White House, and I became very close to him, and he came and ran Michelle and my foundation, which was I Am Your Child, and then became Parents Action for Children, again to support young children. He worked for us for many years, and he was gay. He is gay. And he came to Michelle and me and said, I felt great about Obama winning, but I felt horrible that, that Proposition 8 here in California, nobody believed that in a state as liberal as this state, they would decide to not allow gays and lesbians the right to marry. So we talked about it, and Michelle and I, with him and a woman named Christina Shockey, who went on to become Michelle Obama's communication director, we decided to challenge that federally in a court of law. This is the first time that had ever been done, that there had been a federal challenge to test whether or not marriage equality was constitutional or not. And as was said, we hired Ted Olson and David Boies, the two guys that opposed each other in Bush v. Gore. And doing that was, I think, we were very lucky to get them both, but it took all the partisanship out of the issue and made it a human rights issue, a civil rights issue. And we were lucky to overturn Proposition 8, which then allowed, at the time we didn't have very many states that allowed gay marriage. Now we have upwards of 30 and the District of Columbia. So it's nice to see the floodgates opening on this, and it would be very hard for me to look into the eye of somebody, who's my closest friend, who's like a son to me, and say, I deserve more than what you have. I should have those rights, and you shouldn't have those rights. And that's what made us do that. And as we educated people, they found out that no, it's not going to hurt the institution of marriage. It's not going to hurt anybody's life. It's just going to make other people equal. And the gay community was the only community that was looked upon as less in the eyes of the law. So we went and did that. Again, that didn't directly affect me. I mean, didn't directly affect me, but it affected people I knew and people I cared about. Then, Michelle and I have lived and had a house here in Malibu for over 20 years. And I've been coming either living or as a renter or an owner of a house for 35 years here in Malibu. And those of you who have been in Malibu for that length of time, I don't have to tell you the changes that we've seen take place in this very small seaside community. And we got out here and we started becoming appalled at what we're seeing in the Civic Center. You can't find a place to park. The PCH is gridlocked. I mean, and the idea that it could possibly get worse. And we discovered that in a couple of years, there's going to be a sewer system. Well, that opens the door to a lot more development, possibly. And we started doing some looking into what was going on here in Malibu and getting a little bit of a tutorial from people who have been fighting very hard for many years. The people who are sitting in this room. There's Ozzie Silna, I see John Mazza, Steve Uring, where's Jay? Jay, where are you? Right over here, standing next to that's my wife Michelle, by the way. See Betty and Veronica over here. See Betty and Veronica, the dark and the blonde. Lucy and Ethel, yeah. Anyway, and Jay and John and everybody came and started educating us as to what was actually going on. And what we discovered is that right in the Civic Center alone, there's 1 million square feet of land that is undeveloped at this point. And it is ripe for development. It is zoned for commercial development. And if left unchecked, what we have seen up till now, we'll see more of the same, is my fear. Now, to give you a perspective of this, most of you, you're very familiar with, I was coming out here when it was the Colony Market. Remember the Colony Market? And now it's Ralph's, and I remember it was the Colony Market, and there was that one little coffee shop. What was the name of it? Colony Coffee Shop, yeah, exactly. They were very original there. We had the Colony and the Colony Market. Anyway, that was all that was there. That was in that whole area. And that area is now, completely developed, and it is about 100,000 square feet, that development right there. What we're talking about is 10 of those is now open space and could be developed. That's very frightening to those of us who want to preserve and protect this community. I'm going to read you something because I think it speaks volumes as to where the planners and the original thinkers in this city, when it became a city back in, I think it was 91. Was it 91 when it became? 91, yeah. When it became a city in 91, Hey, Dick, how you doing? There's Dick Van Dyke, who I saw the other day with my dad, and you guys were great. You guys were great, yeah. They did a thing at the Jewish, the synagogue, and my dad signed books and stuff, and they told, and then he did a thing where you told the story, and then he made you do it better. He told it better. I don't know what that was. Anyway, this I'm going to read to you because I think it's important that you understand what was intended by the people who were in charge of preserving and protecting Malibu at that time, and you can see and decide for yourself if we have lived up to this. This is the Malibu General Plan, Vision, and Mission Statement, and this was written, by the way, by many of the people who are opposed to Measure R. These are the people who helped draft this. Malibu is a unique land and marine environment and residential community whose citizens have historically evidenced a commitment to sacrifice urban and suburban conveniences in order to protect that environment and lifestyle, and to preserve unaltered natural resources and rural characteristics. The people of Malibu are a responsible custodian of the area's natural resources for present and future generations. Malibu will plan to preserve its natural and cultural resources, which include the ocean, marine life, tide pools, beaches, creeks, canyons, hills, mountains, ridges, views, wildlife and plant life, open spaces, archaeological, paleontological, and historic sites, as well as other resources that contribute to Malibu's special natural and rural setting. This is the one that gets me. Malibu will maintain its rural character by establishing programs and policies that avoid suburbanization and commercialization of its natural and cultural resources. So, all Measure R does is live up to this. That's all it does. It's a very simple measure, and I'm going to throw it open to questions, but all it does, really, is it says to the voters and the residents of Malibu, any development over 20,000 square feet has to be run by you. You have a right to decide what happens on that land. Now, if you feel comfortable with the way things have evolved and the way things have developed here in Malibu, then you should vote no on R. But if you're not, if you're uncomfortable with the way what you've seen happen over the last number of years, then this will be your last chance to have any kind of say or control over what happens in the undeveloped spaces. So that's what it does. The other thing it does is it limits chain stores to 30%. That's it. And you're going to hear a lot of other things from the other side, and I'd love to hear from people who have questions about it, are confused about it. But I've been running a lot of campaigns. I've worked with a lot of really smart constitutional lawyers. There's nothing in this initiative that is illegal or that doesn't comport with existing laws in Malibu and throughout the state. So we feel very comfortable with it. We're, even the city attorney, even that quote-unquote impartial judge and the city attorney, even she said this is a defensible law, that she would be comfortable defending this law. So let me throw it open to questions. I see a young man here. See, everybody to me is younger than me. You may be the same. How old are you? Oh, I got an older person. 72.
Let me just say that
yes.
These are going to be questions.
Yeah.
If you give a speech, I'm going to cut you off.
Ooh. We've got the moderator Nazi here. Okay. No, but yeah, any questions you want to ask, I'm happy. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a very happy childhood. Could you talk a little bit about what I've been seeing in the papers and on the internet, the disinformation campaign that's going on right now from the Vote No people? Can you tell us about that and why? What'd you think of it?
Well, I mean, it's politics. Politics, there's always a lot of disinformation. When a side is trying to win, they do whatever they can to win. It is historically much, much easier to get a no vote on something than it is to get a yes vote. Because to get a no vote, all you have to do is confuse the voters, tell them that there's something dangerous in it, or it's going to hurt people in Malibu, whatever. To get a yes vote, you have to counteract those things and then say why it's good. Now, one of the things that always strikes me as funny, because the big argument that you get on the other side, and we can cover all of the negative things that they have to say, and I can discuss them with you. But one of my favorite things is they say, well, this is going to create much more development. There's going to be more development and more chain stores. And I'm saying, well, then you should vote for this thing because you're the developers. So if it's in fact going to do that, you're making my life easy. I don't have to raise the money and put on a campaign. You can just go vote for it. So on the on the face of it, that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, to say that it's going to create more, to say that you have a right to vote on what's going to be in your community is going to create more development is very, very strange. And there's some other issues that they bring up, and if you want to talk about any of those, I'm happy to talk about that, yeah.
I'd just like to expand on that a little bit. Do we know for certain that it's sober operating, but then why is he allowed to use the Chamber of Commerce legal mailing address as the source of all the negative campaigns?
Hey, did everybody hear that question?
No.
Yeah, why don't you repeat it so that they can hear?
I understand that the negative campaigns are all being financed supposedly by SoberOp, but what we're seeing is the legal mailing address for the Malibu Chamber of Commerce is the one that's attached to every single mailer, including all emails, all Facebook posts, and I find it telling.
Well, let me talk about that. Yes, as far as we know, Steve Soberoff is the main funder for the No on Our campaign. As far as we can tell, his name is not on. You see, let me explain how campaign finance works in terms of taking out ads. Whenever you see an ad, either in a newspaper or on TV or a mailer that you might get in the mail, anything that you see, it will say paid for by, and then it lists the thing. Now, the way it works is whoever pays the most money, whoever is spending the most, is listed first. That's a campaign law. So if you'll notice, on all of Steve Soberoff's, or we assume it's Steve Soberoff, I believe it is his money, it says paid for by voter education something, Whole Foods and the Park LLC. So I thought that was kind of curious because I thought, Whole Foods, is a good supermarket, it's a reputable company. I thought, are they going to really want to pay for a political campaign to try to stop the people of Malibu from having a say? I wouldn't think, if I were owning a company, I wouldn't think I would do that. So we called the people over at Whole Foods and we asked them. We said, first when we asked, we said, do you understand that, your name is on all the campaign literature and that you're supporting No on Measure R? And the first response we got was, well, we didn't know anything about it. They didn't know. They didn't know. So then we said, well, you should know that it's there, and we're seeing your name listed first, so we're assuming that you are funding the No on Our campaign. So we said, they'll get back to this. Was a PR person. I then talked to the president of the Western Division of Whole Foods, had a good conversation with him. And in fact, he would love to have a Whole Foods in Malibu. He wasn't lying about that. He said, yeah, I'd love to have a Whole Foods. He knew about Steve Soberoff. They knew they had conversations. But he said, we don't get involved in political campaigns. We don't at all. We never have, we never will. And he said, now you're telling me this, we're going to have to issue some kind of statement or something. Subsequently, they did issue a statement saying that Whole Foods takes no position on Measure R. We're not for, we're not against, and no money from Whole Foods has funded any of the No on Our campaign, and has asked Steve Soberoff to take that name off of his campaign. To this day, his name is still on it. If you look in the Malibu Times today, you'll notice there's an ad, again, another one of our favorite things is that we're going to somehow destroy urgent care, which is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard in my life. But they've put it out there. It's a scare tactic to get you to, if you vote for Measure R, somehow, you won't be able to go to a doctor, and, you'll have to live,